Hi, my name is Venz Uata.
And this is Venz Uata, and welcome to the Extra Season Podcast.
Yes. If you guys don't know, Venz is my beautiful wife, and she's joining me on the podcast because we are going to talk a little bit about how we met. And I don't think we're going to be able to share everything leading up to like getting married and having kids, but there's a lot that went into how we started dating, how we met, how that kind of grew. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And this is kind of an episode for our kids just because we wanted to document something for them. And I think that our story is very different and unique. But for those of you guys who aren't familiar with my wife, I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself and share a little bit about herself as well.
So my name is Venz, and I'm originally from the Philippines, from the island called Negros, specifically Negros Oriental, from the town called Shaton.
Nice. And so something interesting about my wife is, again, she mentioned that she's from the Philippines. I actually met my wife in the Philippines, and it was while I was serving an LDS mission for 2 years. I was assigned in the Philippines Cebu Mission, and that's how I met her. Flirt to convert. She was an investigator for the church, and I happened to be the missionary that committed her to baptism, and then I baptized her. And so we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that because, again, within our church, I think there's like, I don't know, people get a little bit judgmental when they hear that we met on our mission. And so I think it's important to kind of clarify what our relationship was like and how you got introduced to the church and different things like that. And so kind of just starting things off, Venz was learning a little bit about the church, but even before that, you had like a mixture of different religions that were in your household.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit more about that.
So I grew up in a different religion. So my dad is Catholic, and then my mom is Jehovah's Witness. So when you get married, like back in the days, like in our culture, you're supposed to follow the husband's religion. But and then so when they were married, we're like secretly going to church.
Because Mama didn't really care about being Catholic.
Yeah,
she still
because she's very strong Jehovah's Witness. So we're sneaking, and like sometimes like we go like most of the time we go to the church without Papa knowing about it. And then eventually, like when I was 12 years old, he found out that we're like sneaking and going to the church. And for him, like he felt like so betrayed.
Yeah,
and he
because
felt
your mom
really
was
bad.
freaking sneaking out and taking you guys to Jehovah's Witness church, which she wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, so I think like he doesn't, it's not because like she goes to church. I think it's because she was sneaking and like not.
Like she wasn't being honest.
Yeah. And so it end up like they have really bad argument about it, and then they almost get like separated.
And you remember all this?
I remember because I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And so my mom stopped going to church. We all stopped going to church at Jehovah's Witness. And then, but like throughout my life, like we're still like doing the
Like
Jehovah's Witness costume. Yeah. So like we don't do the cross, or we don't even like doing the flag ceremony. We can't do this. And then...
Oh, is that a rule against Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah, they don't do that. We don't even do birthday party. We're not supposed to do birthday party.
Like
but because my dad is Catholic, like it's a big thing. So we do birthday parties and fiesta all the time.
So basically, Mama was Jehovah's Witness. She didn't want to be Catholic.
Yeah.
But she stopped going to church with
She just
Jehovah's
stopped going to
Witness. But
church.
you guys were still practicing
Yeah.
a lot of customs from the Jehovah's Witness church.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, like, I know that you have other family members from other religions, like your grandma was Muslim.
Yeah,
right?
like some of my relatives are Muslim, and then they're born again Christian, and some other, like our neighbors, like really close to us, are in different religions.
Yeah, and
so
then you had an uncle that was a member of the LDS church.
And we didn't know that he is a member.
Yeah.
And so growing up, I'm surrounded with different kinds of religion. And then my dad sent me to a private Catholic school.
For college, so you can study criminology.
Yeah. And so, like during that time, like I was open to open for spiritual, something spiritual, but I'm not really sure about.
You just wanted to learn.
Yeah,
about
I just wanted to
religions.
learn, but I'm not that like religious because I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
I feel like there is something missing. And so, yeah.
And so, kind of going back to your uncle, who was a member of the LDS Church,
Yeah.
he was the one who introduced you to the missionaries.
Yeah.
And so, at this point, you are studying, you're in college, you're studying to be a licensed criminologist.
Yeah, I'm already like, I already finished. I'm just waiting for
your final exam.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be a licensed criminologist.
And so, he introduces you to the LDS missionaries, and they ask you if they can teach you a lesson. And I think we remember who it was, right? It was Elder Mingus and Elder Venz Uata, right?
Yeah.
And so what's cool about this is at this point, I grew up here in Utah. I receive a mission call to serve in the Philippines Cebu Mission. And in our church, you go to serve for 2 years. And so I started my mission in I think I went into the missionary training center June 2013. And so I was there for 6 weeks so I can start learning Bisaya or Cebuano, which is the language that I was assigned to speak for your islands. And so I end up going to the Philippines and I meet Elder Mingus and Sauman Utafa. And I remember them telling me about this really cool investigator. They felt like she was really ready to learn, but she wouldn't commit to baptism.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole point of being a missionary is trying to get people to join our church and get baptized and different things like that. And at this time, I was assigned in the town right next to Shaton, which is Bayawan. So I was over there, and Elder Mingus and them were in Shaton teaching you. And I just remember hearing stories about you. And then eventually, I think after 6 weeks, we ended up swapping areas with them. I don't remember the reasoning for it, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to meet this girl who really wants to learn about the church. And I remember meeting you for the first time. We went to the chapel so I can teach you and your uncle. And it was such a cool experience for me because I just remember seeing you and being like, wow, I think this is one of the reasons why I'm here. I was really struggling when I first started my mission because I was struggling finding people, and I was like, what the hell did I sign myself up for? This freaking sucks. Nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody wants to take lessons, which understandable. But it was so cool meeting you for the first time because I was like, wow, this is going to be a really important person. And I had talked to them and they said that you had never committed to being baptized. And I was like, I'm going to be the one to do it. And we kind of hit it off right away. We became really close friends really quick. But what was your first impression of me when you met me as a missionary, when I had my little name tag on here?
Well, the first time, we were so quiet, so timid, so yeah, you're so quiet and so nerdy and so hallelujah, so balaan.
Balaan.
Yeah, and I remember the first day, you were trying to ask how do you say. How do you say it in Cebuano?
Oh, yeah, because again, when we're assigned as missionaries, depending on what language you're speaking, they'll give you a couple weeks to try and learn it before they literally dump you in that country and you just figure it out. And so I had 6 weeks to learn Cebuano, and I had never heard of that mission language until I got my mission call. And I was like, what the freak is this? And it was just a learning curve because they kind of teach you the basics within those 6 weeks, and they kind of teach you old school scriptural, biblical language. And so when you get there to your mission, you are just not ready. People have slang, people have different ways of saying things. And so I think what's funny is that I was pretty extroverted like before I went into my mission, but because I didn't know how to speak, I was so quiet. Like I didn't know how to be funny. I didn't know how to be sarcastic.
Yeah.
And so it was like a relief to meet someone like you who was funny and sarcastic. And I would like ask you to translate things for me, like Mean Girls quotes or whatever, to help me learn the mission language. But it helped. And so I think it was just like a really fun time for us to kind of be introduced to each other, but we never had any like type of romantic feelings for
like,
each other.
I think like that because you're like trying to learn something and then you're quoting like Mean Girls quote. Like what's
like, I would quote like Harry Potter quotes and it'd be like, not me, not Hermione, you. And I'd be like, how would you say that?
So I think like that helps us like become really close. And I feel like because of that, like because you're so like very into like very spiritual and at the same time funny, so I became like very comfortable.
Yeah.
And so you gave us like a lot of, I mean specifically me, a lot of like assignments, and it's like, oh, you need to like really start praying.
Because I wasn't out there to find a wife, okay? I was out there to do the Lord's work. I went out there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so, like, something that I just want to emphasize is when you're serving an LDS mission, there's like really strict rules, especially when it comes to dealing with people of the opposite sex or gender. Specifically, like, obviously, I have a mission companion. We're together at all times. And so even when we were there, I just felt like I could open up to you about things and like you understood and were very patient with like my language barrier that I had, obviously. But it didn't stop us from growing like this really genuine connection. And so I remember being able to teach you and committing you to baptism. And that was such a cool thing because that was my first opportunity that I had to do that. And kind of leading up to your baptism, you got baptized like a little bit before my birthday, like October 4th.
Yeah.
And I was so anxious about it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be my first baptism. It's going to be so cool. It's going to be so crazy. And do you remember the day of your baptism? Like, what do you remember about it?
It was like all of a sudden typhoon, like everything is like flooded.
It was storming,
and
it was flooding.
Yeah, and like the wind is blowing and like all the roofs are like flying away. It was like crazy.
Yeah.
And I think like everyone, so it was my baptism and I didn't have anyone except my uncle.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that everyone's coming.
Like,
and then
all of the members of the
like
ward or like the branch were coming.
Baptismal
The
font.
baptismal font?
Oh my gosh, it was like, the water is like diarrhea.
It literally looked like, it was like dark green, like brownish. And it was crazy because I remember they were filling it up and they were getting ready for the baptism. Me and Venz were getting dressed and they were telling us like, I think like because of the flooding, like this water is just not, like it's like leaking into the pipes and stuff like that.
They were considering it like to cancel it.
Yeah, they were going to cancel your baptism.
And so I think like even like the moment that I commit to be baptized, I already know, like I already have like a strong testimony that the church is true. Like I have a really strong connection that like I felt home. Like the day that I get baptized, I remember before I got baptized, like the night before, you were like saying that when you get baptized, I know like there's gonna be a lot of trials that will come in your life, and it's up to you to really strive hard and.
Oh, what a smart thing to say! What a wise thing to say!
Yeah, I think like that really set me up to
expect the unexpected.
Yeah. And so I said, when I woke up during that day, I feel so blessed and like so
even
excited.
Though it was storming,
feeling
raining.
So home. I don't know, like I can't explain the feeling that I feel like Heavenly Father is just telling me like, oh, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be fine. So and then you said, are you sure you don't want to cancel
I
it?
had to ask you. I was like, hey, like they're saying you can cancel it. We can change it. We can move it to a different date when it's not storming and the water and the baptismal font is clear. But something that I always think about that date was when I asked you that question, you looked at me and you said, well, this is such a small price to pay to follow the example of my Savior. And that was just like the biggest miracle for me to experience, because I was like, dang, this girl like really wants to get baptized. Like she's not going to have anything stop her from being baptized. And that goes to show that you weren't getting baptized for me. Like, even though we were close friends, it really was for you. Like you had developed like this strong testimony of the gospel and wanted to become a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so you and I, we got dressed. We went into that nasty ass baptismal water and I baptized you. And it was just such a cool experience. And as a missionary, like once you get assigned somewhere, like it's no guarantee that you're going to be there for a long time. We basically like we operate in things being split up into like 6 weeks, and we call them transfers. So like you can be assigned somewhere for like 1 transfer, 2 transfers, 4 transfers. You just don't know. And so I spent 2 transfers in Shaton, and then I got transferred out to a different island. And so again, with mission rules, there's a lot of restrictions of how we get to communicate with people of the opposite gender. So mind you, I was an elder, so we had sister missionaries, but because they were in my mission, I wasn't able to email them or communicate with them outside of like working with them and collaborating on different things. And so that rule even applies to female members of the church. Even though Venz was somebody that I baptized, we weren't able to communicate and like email or do anything like that. And so I
remember I did write a letter, but like you weren't allowed to like respond or anything.
Yeah, I like people can send letters like that if they're within the mission, but they don't give it to us until the end. And so basically this was like at the very beginning of my mission that I baptized you. It was like my second transfer that I baptized you. And so going on with my mission, I was getting assigned to different areas, different islands. And I think it was like a year later. So I started my mission 2013. 2014, you decide that you want to go on your mission and that you were really going to put in the effort to try and go on your own mission, which was the coolest thing. And I don't think a lot of missionaries get to experience that. But for me, hearing about you going with the missionaries, teaching lessons and stuff like that, it was so cool. Like I felt like I was getting updates from all these different missionaries about the work that you were doing, and it got me super excited and made me super proud. But again, there wasn't like any like communication until one day my mission President Schmutz, he asked me to send you an email or to write you a letter because you had submitted your mission papers.
Yeah, and they lost it.
They freaking lost it.
Yeah.
So for you guys, it was like a lot harder for you guys to submit your mission papers because it was all physical, like paperwork and stuff like that.
You have to like write it down physically.
And so he was like worried that it was, I don't know, just going to have like a negative impact on you. So he was like, just like write her some words of encouragement and just let her know that like everything will work out. And so I remember at the time I was serving in an area called Minglanilla. And
it's in a different island.
Yeah, on a different island in Cebu. And then I got a transfer call, and then I got assigned to Zamboanguita, which is literally the town right next to Shaton.
Yeah.
And so I remember going, and our first weekend, we had this big like conference for like multiple churches.
That was the first stake conference.
Yeah, it was like a big deal to have like all these different areas, like all the members within these areas came together. And I remember going as a missionary, and the stake president was like, oh, we're so excited. We just got this mission call for a sister in Shaton. And I remember like sitting up and immediately being like, oh my gosh, this is Venz's mission call. She's the only person in Shaton who is preparing for a mission right now.
Yeah.
And the next day I got to see you open your mission call. And I just remember like I was sitting in the back of the chapel and I was like bawling because I don't know, it's one thing to like baptize somebody, but it's another to baptize them and see them want to go on their own mission all while I'm still serving mine, you know?
Yeah.
And so you like open up your mission call and you get the coolest freaking mission call ever.
Yeah, I think like them losing my mission paper. It's like I think it's like a blessing in disguise as well. Because at first, like I get so discouraged. Because
Yeah, I think the Lord wanted me to be there for when you open your mission call. Crazy.
Okay, so like I think so. The reason why I wanted to serve my mission is because like as soon as I became a member, like I feel like my family was like, "Oh, you're not gonna be like you're not serious, like you're not going."
But you wanted to prove to them that you were.
Yeah, and during that time, like I never stopped. Reading the scripture, never stopped studying.
You were going to church every Sunday.
Yeah,
you were helping the missionaries teach lessons. Like you were doing a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like so that time I'm already a licensed criminologist, and then I told my dad, I think I'm going out on a mission.
What did Papa say? How did he respond?
He was
to
like
that?
so disappointed, and especially Mama.
I'd be disappointed too. I'd be like, I just paid your freaking tuition at that private Catholic school, and you're not even going to do that.
Yeah, I feel like he was so disappointed, but Mama was so disappointed more because she said that it's like you have this very abrupt decision, like totally life-changing decision. And
What's funny is when I was teaching Venz, I tried teaching her parents like after I baptized, and they were not open to listening. I feel like Mama was like very closed off to me. She didn't want to give me the time of day to go visit.
She's a strong Jehovah's Witness, and my dad is a strong Catholic,
when
but
you say
only
strong Catholic.
He only goes to church like
Christmas,
Easter, wedding, burial, like
but
funeral.
There's a saying for like Catholics in the Philippines, like, and your dad is this way, where they just say like, oh, like Ginoo gihapon is what they say.
So if I'm born Catholic, I'm gonna die Catholic. So that's
and even if they're like not going to church or whatever, it's like they still consider themselves like very diehard Catholics. Yeah. And so I know that they were kind of disappointed at the fact that you wanted to serve your own mission. But again, you were proving to them that you were serious about this and that it wasn't just an abrupt decision or like an out of the blue decision that you made. Like you had really thought about it and you made the decision to get baptized. And I think they respected that. And I mean, like they couldn't say anything. I mean, Mama was Jehovah's Witness, not practicing Catholicism. So could she be mad that her own daughter was like, well, maybe I want to go join my own church, you know?
Well, I'm already a hard-headed child. Like I'm a very wild child already.
That is an understatement.
So that's why my dad is like, oh, okay, just do whatever you want. Like you're already old enough. And so my mom was like very disappointed because she said, oh, you already like have all this career lined up for you, and I don't want you to
like postpone your career,
everything. And then because I wanted to be in the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, and so I'm already there. And so like I stopped, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna work at the I'm gonna work my career after my mission, and just support me on this. And so I think like the very strong was this that pushed me to go on my mission is because I have a really strong testimony and I wanted to learn more. And I feel like going on a mission will make me learn more,
like have an even more solidified testimony from what you've learned. And so kind of just going back to the state conference when you get your mission call, I remember they like brought you up to the front, which is like not normal.
I was not normal at all. And that was my first time, and I don't have any family except my uncle, because he's the only member. And then so they called me upstairs, up to the pulpit, and I was reading my mission call, and it says, you are going to serve your mission in Australia, Sydney North Mission.
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh, like I was like bawling
I was bawling.
Yeah, because it was a big deal. Because Shaton, like we never had anyone serve outside of the
internationally, yeah.
country. Yeah, so I was the first one, and I don't know what to expect because I'm like I was barely a member of the church, and so I was excited but so nervous. Yeah. And
But what's cool is that because I was serving in Zamboanguita, like we used to have like these meetings as missionaries like every Monday. And so we did them in Shaton. And so during that time, like you and Mama were like cooking lunch for the missionaries every Monday.
I started my business
Because you were
I
saving
wanted
up.
I wanted to go on my mission. I was saving up. So I'm like setting up all this missionary doing what's this district meeting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, can I like cook food for you guys?
Instead
and
of
then
you guys going out to a restaurant, can you guys
so
just
we
eat here?
we will serve food for you.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I was able to like save up my money and then save up for all those medical, dental, and everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was pretty independent.
Yeah. But I mean, even then, like when you guys were kind of cooking for the missionaries every Monday after our meetings, it was cool because that was an opportunity for me to like catch up with you and like you would explain like how nervous you were about going on your mission, speaking English because you were assigned to speak English. For your mission.
Yeah, we speak English, like we learn English at school, but it's so different when you speak it like every day. I've never like
but I mean at
English
least you're
like
more
every day.
familiar. You're like you understand English more than I understood Cebuano when I got my mission call, you know. So I kept telling you like you speak English, like you know English. I think you were just getting like a little caught up in your head about slang and I don't know your accent. But I was like, no, it'll be fine. But kind of at this point, I was getting towards the end of my mission, and so I baptized Venz in 2013. It's now 2015, and I'm getting ready to come home. And I'm serving in Zamboanguita. And in order for Venz to go serve her mission in Australia, she had to go to one of our temples to go receive her endowments. And that is kind of like a very sacred experience for your first time. And Venz asked if I could go with her because I was the missionary that baptized her. So we have these rules, again, these strict rules. And in our mission, like you're allowed to do that. If you have a recent convert that decides that they're going to go through the temple, like because it takes a year for you to prepare for that, we're allowed to take them. But Venz and I were in Negros.
Different island.
It was a different island from where the temple was, which is in Cebu. And we had a mission rule that you could only take people to the temple if you literally lived on that island. And I was coming up towards the end of my mission. I had like one transfer left, and I was like, hey, Venz, like, I don't think I'll be able to take you because I'll probably just finish my mission in Zambo. And you told me, you're like, I think we should just fast and pray about it, and whatever happens, happens. And we did. And I remember getting a transfer call for my last transfer, and I end up getting assigned to Camputao, which is literally like
the temple square.
Temple Square. It's like, I get assigned literally working at the temple, like across the street. And I just remember, again, it was just like another miracle that we got to experience together. And I took you to the temple for your endowment. And it literally was like, I think it was like a couple days before I came home from my mission, but it was also like the day before you went on your mission.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge milestone. So again, like I
there's
was there
a lot
for,
of coincidences,
coincidences and just things that lined up for us. So like being able to be the person that baptized you, being able to be there for your mission call when you got assigned to Sydney, Australia, and then being able to take you to the temple. I mean, being there for just one thing is like such a cool thing.
Yeah,
but being there for like more than two things is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like unheard of. And so you end up going on your mission. I come home and I come home to Utah.
Same day. It's funny because like you finish your mission and then I started my mission the same day.
Yeah.
Like, dang.
So like you were temporarily assigned in
Naga mission.
Naga. And so that was just so that they can process like your visa paperwork and everything. I come home to Utah and we're kind of communicating here and there.
Yeah, like we don't. I think like I receive an email from you like throughout my mission, like twice,
like
three
a few
times. Yeah.
And it really was just to check in.
Yeah.
And so again, there wasn't any like romantic vibes going on.
Not at all.
But
I wasn't attracted
what's
to
funny
you.
is, okay, I wouldn't say that. But like, I think what's funny is that when I came home from my mission, I feel like people always push on like return missionaries trying to go out there and get married and whatever. And I'm just not a big dater. Like I don't like I wasn't excited to get myself out there and like go date or whatever. But I remember coming home and saying like, I need to find somebody that's as cool as Venz. And if they're not, then I just won't date them. And so I really was just like, I kind of like held you as a standard. Again, I didn't really see you that way because I was like, you live in the Philippines, I live in America. It's never going to work. So I guess the only thing I could do is find somebody who's as cool as you. That's how I kind of thought about it in my head. Like somebody that I can be authentic with, somebody that I can crack jokes with, somebody that I can be spiritual and open with. You know what I mean? And so I honestly didn't go on any dates, but I remember when I came home in 2015, the following year, I put together this humanitarian project with some of my mission friends who had come home as well. And we wanted to go back out to the Philippines in order to do service projects to the areas that we served in. And I remember emailing you about it. And then you told me that you were like getting sent home on medical release.
Yeah. So in the middle of my mission, I tore my ACL and like get my meniscus bruised.
Yeah.
And I was like, so, I don't know. In my mind, I was like so confused. Like, why is this happening to me? Like in the middle of my mission, and like I need to prove to my parents that like I'm serious about it. Like, why am I coming home?
Yeah.
And so, cause they let me decide if I want to go home or not, to do my surgery. But yeah, like I was really scared about it. Cause like I was like, I'm very sporty.
Yeah.
I did like martial arts and I was a varsity, and I was like just so confused and questioning Heavenly Father, why is this happening to me? Like I'm very serious about my mission and why should I, like, why do I need to go home? And so I prayed about it, and then I felt like I really need to do the surgery so I could be a better missionary when I come back. But I promised that I want to finish my mission.
Yeah, so you end up getting sent home. You tell me, and this was like a couple weeks before I end up back in the Philippines for the first time. And so I remember, like, because you got released as a missionary, she wasn't wearing a name tag anymore. And I was thinking about it, and I was talking to my mission president. Shout out to President Schmutz. But I told him, I was like, President Schmutz, I like think I want to ask Venz out on a date. And he was like, oh my gosh, I think that's a great idea. I think you guys should get married. And I was like, what the hell, Prez? Like, slow your roll, right? I mean, I didn't know how this was going to work. Again, I kind of just made these obstacles saying, like, you live in a different country. There's no way we're going to be able to make this work. And so I like told him my hesitations, and he was like, well, you guys have experienced like too many miracles in order for you to like turn a blind eye to this. And he was like, I think that you should do it. And so I remember hitting up Venz like after she had gotten sent home back to the Philippines, like, hey, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be here with like a group of people from the mission that you've met. I think you should come along with us and like help us do these projects. And so you did. Like you came with us for like multiple days. And
I was still wearing my braces and something.
So you were like helping us do these projects or whatever. And then we literally went on like one date.
Yeah.
And after this first date is when
I didn't even think that was a date. We just went together, like just on our
just us two. But that's the thing. It was like I did, but it wasn't because we were with so many different people.
Yeah.
And so that it was hard for us to kind of break off and be like, okay, like just me and Venz are going to go out today. But we did. And we just went out like one time.
Yeah.
And then the following day, we were all going as a group to Siquijor, which is another island right next to Negros.
Yeah.
And we go to the port and
Oh my
all
gosh.
the
And
boats
then,
got delayed.
Yeah. It was like everyone was so pissed.
We were there for
like
hours.
all the people. And then the boat got delayed for like 3 hours.
Not just like one boat.
So
it's like every boat.
We don't know what's going on. So like we were just sitting, and all those people that you came with, the other return missionaries came with, were like sitting, and then we're just chatting, and then we're sitting. You were sitting beside me, and we just end up like talking.
And so this is literally after our first date.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting down waiting for this boat, and I don't know what came over me, but I looked over at you and I was like, so are we going to get married or what?
Yeah. I feel like...
And I remember you like looked at me and you were just like, yeah.
Because you know what, like during like the night before, I felt like something's going on. Like I feel like...
No, I felt the same way.
You're something
you were talking,
more,
yeah.
like you're going to be more... gonna be an important person. Like,
yeah. Well, like what's funny is that when I first met you, I knew that you were going to be important, and I honestly just thought it was because you were the first person I baptized. Like, oh, like that was how big of a moment. Like I'm never gonna forget that. But I think like the night before, because we were there with a group of people, I remember like talking to like Dylan Staley, like one of my mission companions. I was talking to Kyle. I was talking to Carly, Maddie, all these people, and I just remember saying, like, I feel like this strong feeling that, like, I'm supposed to be married to Venz. And so when we were sitting at this boat, like, I just remember being so anxious. I wanted to freaking throw up. I was going to pass out, honestly. And that was, like, the only sentence I can muster up was, like,
so are we going to get married
or what? And the relief I had when you were like, yeah. And for me...
No, I said, it's like, yeah, I think, but I have to finish my mission.
Yeah. So you say that you want to go back out and finish your mission.
And then I said, I have to finish my mission and we need to pray about it. Because like, for me, at that time, like during that time that I was in the surgery and doing the rehab, all those, during this time, it's like there's a lot of my like mission mates in like my previous missions that like wanted to like
you had
like
been proposed to before.
You wanted to like
You had been proposed to before.
Yeah.
Like people were asking for your hand in marriage.
Yeah.
You told them that you wanted to finish your mission.
Yeah, and then everyone was like basically all of them were saying, oh, you don't have. You're a woman, and you don't have to finish your missions. Like, let's just
it's
go.
Not required for you.
Let's just go on a day and then like make it work. But I said, it's like, no, it's not for me. Yeah. And then you're the only one that says, okay, like you need, if you want to go finish your mission, you finish your mission. You need to focus on your mission. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah, because I support women's
different.
rights and some of their wrongs.
Yeah.
But like, I think for you, that was kind of like your test. Like if I wasn't going to support you to go finish your mission, then I think immediately you would have been like, scratch his name off the list. But I think the fact that I didn't want to take that experience away from you. Like I freaking loved my mission. I learned so much on my mission, and I know how hard you were working to go on your mission. So I was like, yeah, go out, go on your mission, go finish up or whatever. And, and then we can kind of figure things out as we go. And so you literally do go back out to Sydney, Australia. And that's like pretty unheard of. For a lot of people who get sent home for like medical release, like there's not like a high percentage of people who go back out to finish. And so it's just cool because it just emphasizes that you were going out there for the right reasons. It wasn't for anybody else. It wasn't even for me. It literally was just for you and your testimony. And so when you go back out, you came back home to the Philippines, like what, January 2017? Mind you, we
like I think when I came back, I think you only emailed twice.
Yeah.
And like throughout my mission, and then you always say, you need to
because
focus.
I wanted you to focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a distraction. I didn't want to
So,
be that
yeah.
person who took your attention away from doing what you were supposed to do. And like when you came home in January 2017 and like actually completed your mission, I literally fly out there the following month in February, and we are like, we're going to get engaged. Like this
Yeah.
is going to happen. And so I fly out there by myself. And in the Philippines culture, you guys have
We have this called pamalaye. So it's kind of like a dowry or something. So
Dowry.
Dowry. So you're supposed to bring your family, and you ask
food.
permission to my family to ask my hand to marry.
mind you, I'm freaking
And
broke at this
you're
point.
supposed to bring food and offerings and all that.
Again, emphasis on I was broke at the time. I literally was a return missionary working in a call center. And I remember going out there knowing that we were going to get engaged, like I was going to propose to you.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about the game plan of like, okay, like, can you explain to me what's supposed to happen? And you were like, oh, you're supposed to bring food and your family. And I was like, okay, but like how much food? And
Yeah.
you and your mom, being typical Filipinos, was like, just what you can. Just bring what you can. I'm like, what does that mean? Do you need like $20? Do you need $200?
You're supposed
I
to
need to know.
bring five lechon
Yeah.
and everything. Just kidding.
But like, I remember Venz telling me like, oh, my whole family's going to come. And I was thinking like, oh, like maybe her siblings and some of her cousins. When I show up to the house, there are not enough chairs in this house for how many people were there. You had your neighbors, you had your cousins
All the
there.
cousins, and all the relatives from everywhere.
Yeah, because I'm sure everybody knew what was happening. We were all preparing for it. And
Yeah.
thankfully, because Mama knew that obviously my family wasn't there, Mama was like, oh, I'll cook.
Yeah.
Like if you could just like buy the ingredients and stuff, like I'll cook for the family. And I was like, okay, great. And so we go over to the house. There's literally so many people. There are people sitting on the floor, people standing outside, looking through the windows.
Yeah.
Like everybody was tuned in. And basically how this happened, like how this dowry happens is I go and introduce myself. I state my intent, which was to marry you, and then we open the room up to questions. And
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody was there because they were like, who's this big ass Indian dude?
Indian.
Who's gonna be asking?
For real, they think that it's like, oh, are you a Turkish
foreigner.
or
He's
an
from Turkey,
Indian?
Mumbai.
Mumbai ka dong dagan kwarta. but like I think so it's everyone's expecting to come because it's a big deal because I'm the firstborn and
your
I'm
family.
and I'm a woman, and so like in our culture, like if you're the oldest, like we're supposed to get married in the Philippines.
Yeah.
It's supposed to have all my
But
family.
this is when we open it up to questions.
Yeah.
And so literally one of the first questions is like, oh, where would you guys want to live after you get married? And I was like, oh, we'd want to live in America. And then somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, can you get divorced?
My grandpa. So, can you get divorced in
He
America?
was like, can you get divorced in America? Because in the Philippines, because they're run by
we
like
don't
the
have
Catholic
divorce.
Church, yeah, they don't really have divorce. Like
Yeah.
you can pay for like an annulment, but
Yeah.
it's really expensive. And so not a lot of people
Yeah.
do that. And so literally that was one of the first questions. It's like, can you get divorced in America? And I was like, yeah, you can. And it was funny because they started like drilling me with questions like, what do you do? What if you do get divorced and she wants to come back to the Philippines? Are you going to take care of that and like make sure she can get her way home?
And my parents were like, so what about her career? Like,
Yeah, because you spent so much time getting your degree in
Yeah.
criminology. They were like, well, what if you guys live out here? And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I can't build a life here for myself. Like, my career is back home. I mean, at the time, I was just working in a call center, but I had big goals for myself. And so it was just kind of crazy. Like, they were drilling me. Like, and I was sitting there, like, speaking to them in Cebuano and kind of, like, explaining. Another thing is that because we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we get married in temples. And so they were asking, oh, can you guys get married out there and then do another like wedding
Reception,
over here? Or like, can you guys get married here and have a reception in America?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we can't get married here because none of you guys would be able to come. And they got so upset. And we had to explain to them, well, you can't come into the temple because you're not a member of the church. And they were so confused. And it just got like everything was just kind of like boiling over.
Yeah, because nobody knows about the church and like
our rules and like our doctrine and different things like that.
But
and
my dad, he was...
Okay, so this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
And this is when your dad gained like the most respect for me because people were like nonstop asking me questions and I was getting like really overwhelmed. And people weren't even like letting me answer. There was like a certain point where like I was trying to speak up and then people would be like, da 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 da.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but I remember it that way.
Yeah, I do.
And I remember your dad standing up and saying like, making everybody go quiet. And he was just like, I like trust Venz enough to do what she thinks is right for her. And he basically like gave me his blessing and he was like, I don't really care what anybody else has to say because I think like Robin's earned my trust like to take care of my daughter. He's proven that he can take care of my daughter. And I think the fact that we had known each other since 2013, so 4 years at this point before we even got engaged. Like, yeah, it sounds like it was really fast because we literally went on like one date. And then when we decided that we wanted to get married, and then that was in 2016, you went out to your mission, came back home, and then 2017, we're getting engaged. Like, there was just so much relationship building that happened that it wasn't even romantic, but I think that he trusted that.
They were even like shocked when I told them like, oh, I'm going to get married. My mom was like, oh no, like you can't get married. Like your career.
Well, your whole
they're
life
always like career.
Your whole life you always said that you weren't going to get married.
Yeah. And it's like, who are you going to get married to? Like you don't have a boyfriend.
But I remember you told me that you said it was me. That you were like, oh, I'm going to get married to Elder Uata. And your mom was like, what?
Yeah. But my dad, I think like because I bring up getting married, because throughout my life, I always said I would never want to get married. Yeah.
Like even when I baptized you, I remember we were talking about it one time when you're just like, so like, I don't want to get married, but I want to have kids. Yeah. And I was like, oh, so you're just going to have someone's kids? And I told you,
like, when I have kids, like, I'm going to name my kid after you. Regardless of the gender. It's going to be Robin. And I told you about it.
Yeah, you told me about that in 2013. But like, again, just like getting to the point of getting engaged was such a crazy process. And I think just having Papa's stamp of approval at that moment, like everybody went quiet. Yeah. And all the questions stopped. And then suddenly everybody just wanted to celebrate and start eating all the food that I paid for. But, like, I'm just so grateful for our story because it is something that has helped me stay grounded with understanding and seeing how the Lord works in my life. And I've been able to experience all these cool miracles and see and receive all these blessings with you being a big part of a lot of those things, especially on my mission. And so, I don't know. I just feel like I was always drawn to you. It didn't start off romantic, but I think that's what makes our marriage stronger than a lot of other marriages that I see, is that like we really built this solid foundation of friendship first, and that grew into something more. And I'm just thankful that we did it the right way. And I feel like when people hear that we meet on the mission, they pass judgment, like, oh, like maybe I was breaking the rules, or maybe I was flirting with you or whatever. And it couldn't be more opposite. I felt like both of us were doing exactly what we needed to do. And that is what got us together to that point. And I mean, like, obviously we're almost done with our recording and we're only up to the point where we got engaged, but we'll probably have to bring you on for another podcast episode so we can spill some more tea about you coming over to America, what that was like, us getting married. But yeah, I just think like this experience that we had is something that is not common. And our story, there's so many different details. And I feel like when people ask like how we met, like we tried to give them this condensed, really easy version of how we met. Like, oh, like we met on the mission, like he's the one who baptized me or whatever.
Yeah.
But just like understanding how all of this transformed into something more is such a cool thing to see.
I really love that. Yeah, like I think it's one thing that like because you're very strong in the gospel, and I think that that what leads me to like say yes to you is because I know that like we can be ourselves, we can be like funny, and very spiritual, and I think like I want that in my life because I know I'm serious about being in the church, and I wanted to prove to my family that
you're like, you don't think I'm serious about the church? I'm going to marry the missionary that baptized me.
Pop 2 children.
You pop out 2 kids for that dude. Hak to.
Okay, I love you, Heavenly Father. But I think like all the Heavenly Father is really watching over us, and he like I could never deny the path that he put us into.
Yeah.
It's like, dang,
it's
you're
like
the love of my life.
Like I said, I just feel like the experiences that we've had are so unique that not a lot of people get to experience together. And just as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, being able to say that I was there for every covenant that you've had to make in the temple, or every covenant you've had to make with our Heavenly Father, from baptism to receiving your endowments to getting sealed in the temple on our wedding day. Not a lot of people can say that. And it's just crazy to think that, we're only at our engagement and there's so much more to share. So maybe we'll have to bring you on for another episode so we can talk more in detail about what it's like.
What it's like to be married to you?
Yeah, to be married to me. I could talk about your toxic traits and what irritate me.
Oh, me too. It's like we almost get divorced before we married.
And we've almost got divorced once or twice while being married.
Yeah, I packed all my stuff in.
So stay tuned for those episodes, because I just feel like even with those hard moments, it always brings me back to the good moments.
Yeah.
And I just always remember that the Lord didn't give us these trials for us to fail.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to know that we're almost 6 years into our marriage. We got 2 kids now.
Faye,
maybe more on the way soon, right?
Luck to key.
But I'm so thankful that you took the time to come on. I know that you were really anxious about it, but I feel like this is something that I wanted to put out there so people could get to know me a little bit more and get to know you a little bit more. And I want them to understand why we're the baddest bitches they know as a couple.
Stop swearing.
It's okay. But yeah, stay tuned for another part with Venz, and we will talk to you guys a little bit more about our journey to marriage. See ya.